evening and welcome to Bryson's Capstone performance. I'm his voice torturer, teacher, Nathan Munson, and this is Bryson's final project as part of his BA in Applied Studies. And you might notice some recording gear, cameras and microphones. Bryson, as a professional actor, is pretty comfortable in front of the camera, but he's also been learning how to do things behind the camera. And some of the skills he's been learning in his minor, the Music and Entertainment Business program, MIBUS. And so he's recording his capstone with this equipment. As part of the skills he's been learning, he's going to develop an entire finished product. He has a couple pieces that he'll be performing himself, and then you're welcome to applaud at the end of each of those. In the meantime, make sure your phones are silenced and enjoy the performance.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. And without any further ado, my capstone is a snapshot of how classical vocal repertoire can enhance the narrative, plot, or drama of scenes in modern-day film. So, I have a couple examples for us to take a look at. These are two different Mozart examples and used in very different ways. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is Mozart's Dies Irae. This translates as the Day of Wrath. It's quite a fitting song if you ask me. In this scenario, Jack has put this poor babysitter through all the paces. He's the son of this family of superheroes and he's discovering all his powers. And this poor babysitter is none the wiser. She has no idea about superheroes, right? So, poor Jack, or poor babysitter. Let's take a look at how this scene plays out.
Triangle. Good. House. Not that good. Campfire. No! Don't panic! Baby on fire! Baby on fire! Baby.
So, it's a great song for two reasons. First of all, I've explained that Dies Irae, the Day of Wrath, quite the Day of Wrath, if you ask me. Second is she actually, in the beginning of the film, it's a short film, only a few minutes long. At the very beginning, she turns on this CD player, and it has Mozart. She turns it on for neurological stimulation. We see how that turned out. All right, so the next example we're going to take a look at is from Shawshank Redemption. This is Mozart's Duetto sull'aria from The Marriage of Figaro. And this one plays out very differently, as we'll see.
Andy, do you hear that? Andy, let me out. Andy? Andy?
I have no idea to this day what those two Italian ladies were singing about. Truth is, I don't want to know. Some things are best left unsaid. I like to think they were singing about something so beautiful it can't be expressed in words, and makes your heart ache because of it. I tell you, those voices soared, higher and farther than anybody in a gray place dares to dream. It was like some beautiful bird flapped into our drab little cage and made those walls dissolve away. And for the briefest of moments, every last man at Shawshank felt.
So here we can see in this example, very different. Two different Mozart pieces, but used in very different ways. And we can see this had a profound effect, so much so that it didn't really matter what they were singing about, but it was the inherent qualities of the classical singing that was able to have such a profound effect on these characters. So now we're going to move on to the topic of diegetic versus non-diegetic. So we can't talk about the magic of filmmaking without talking about these two things. Diegetic refers to anything that is part of the story's diegesis, or storytelling elements, anything that originates from within the scene. And then non-diegetic is the opposite of that, anything that's added in post for the audience, the enhancement of the audience perspective of the film. So I have our two examples here. And in the Shawshank Redemption, we could see that you could pinpoint exactly where that was coming from. It was coming from that gramophone, played over loudspeaker, everyone in the scene could hear it. And I would argue it wouldn't be the same storyline without that song in it. So the Jack Jack Attack one is more non-diegetic because you could take that out and it would maintain somewhat of the same story structure. Now, one could argue maybe that is diegetic because she had that CD player at the very beginning playing Mozart. So it was probably going through different Mozart tracks, which in the movie is playing all Mozart music until it gets to this new Mozart track that's Dies Irae. So maybe it's playing that, maybe it isn't, but you could take it out and it would still be the same storyline. So that is my argument for why it's non-diegetic. So next we're going to go into a couple more in-depth examples. And so first I'd like to present the song that we're going to take a look at. This is Die Forelle. It was composed by Franz Schubert in 1817 as an art song for piano and voice. And it was it's believed that he wrote this song as feeling pressures from his family on his career and just wanting him to go in a different path than music. And he was feeling trapped by this. So in this song, it talks about this fish that is in a brook swimming about and eventually gets caught by a sneaky fisherman. And so one could put Franz Schubert in the feet of the fish and then his dad in the place of the fisherman. So I'm going to go ahead and sing this for you now in its original context, and then we'll take a look at how it was adapted into a film. Just make sure. Okay.
In einem Bächlein helle, da schoss in froher Eil die launische Forelle vorüber wie ein Pfeil. Ich stand an dem Gestade und sah in süßer Ruh des munten Fischleins Bade im klaren Bächlein zu. Des munten Fischleins Bade im klaren Bächlein zu. Ein Fischer mit der Ruhe Boote wohl an dem Ufer stand und saß mit kaltem Blute, wie sich das Fischlein wand. Solang dem Wasser helle, so dacht ich nicht gerbricht, so fängt die Forelle mit seiner Angel nicht. So fängt die Forelle mit seiner Angel nicht. Doch endlich war dem Diebe die Zeit zu lang. Macht das Bächlein tüges Triebe und ich es gedacht, so zumtet seine Rute, das Fischlein zappelt dran, und ich mit regem Blute sah die Betrogenen, und ich mit regem Blute sah die Betrogenen.
So, as promised, we're going to take a look at how this plays a role in film. For here, I have a clip of Sherlock Holmes 2 featuring Robert Downey Jr. And cool thing about this is Professor Moriarty actually explains how he uses this song in this scene and draws a metaphor of what's actually happening in the plot. And I have added the score underneath here as an aid to help follow along. And I do want to give a little content warning. This does have scenes of violence, so parental guidance is advised. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at how this plays out in film.
You are familiar with Schubert's work.
Halt! Stehen bleiben!
The trout is perhaps my favorite.
Auf die Knie!
A fisherman grows weary of trying to catch an elusive fish.
Out the way, out the way.
So he muddies the water,
I'm warning ya.
confuses the fish.
Also, keine Papiere.
You were warned.
He doesn't realize until too late that it has swum into a trap.
Die launische Forelle vorüber wie unfeil. Es stand an dem Gestade und sah den süßen Ruh des Muttenfischleins war.
So it's a rather interesting example of how it's used. Definitely a couple things to look at and notice about it. We do notice that it is diegetic example, very similar to the Shawshank Redemption, right? Because it was played over the gramophone. Again, everyone could hear it, and it wouldn't be the same if you took it out of there. And then we have some combined elements. That song was kind of buried in the background at some points. and had other musics playing on top of it and some sound effects as well, really intensifying things. And then also we have this contrast of the song sounding pretty happy and upbeat with a very intense, dramatic, and dark stuff that's going on right there. So all these elements combine to really enhance the drama and the narrative of what's going on in this scene. So the next example we're going to take a look at is the diva song from the Fifth Element. This song is Il Dolce Suono, and it's from Lucia dell'Amore. So this is sung by the diva. The diva is the little blue character in the front of the poster there. And she only has about 5 minutes of screen time. So what was so significant that she made the front cover? Well, part of it is in the context of the film. This is a futuristic, sci-fi, and surreal film that has a really upbeat pace to it. It's kind of grungy also. When the diva comes out, it is a complete shift of this pace. It just stops it right there. Everything is focused on the diva, and as if nothing else matters. And she is this pristine character. And the opera that she sings, the setting is staged in a way that you might expect an opera solo to be staged. It's in this grand opera house that's built inside a giant space cruiser, and it plays out actually very similar how you would expect the solo to go. It's the recognizable song, but then later on, during the second half, she actually does a 180 shift on us, changing the way that the song is completely. It becomes this mash of the classical and the modern together. And so we're going to take a look at how that was adapted for this scene. I'm going to skip forward a little bit in here. So yeah, when she came out, it was complete stop and almost silence. And so here we get to enjoy this double juxtaposition. We have the slow down of pace, everything focused here, and then it brings it right back up, but in a way that you don't expect, and it just adds to the surrealness of this film. So that concludes the examples that I have in the music capstone, but I also have this honors capstone element where I have taken the format of what we've been looking at so far, taking a song and then putting it in the context of a film. And I've done a very similar thing myself with my own music. So for my song, I have taken a poem by Emily Dickinson called "It's All I Have to Bring Today." And so I'd like to read you the poem. It's all I have to bring today, this and my heart beside. This and my heart and all the fields wide, and all the meadows wide. Be sure to count, should I forget, someone the sum could tell. This and my heart and all the bees which in the clover dwell. So I've taken this to mean that it's an offering up to God, that it may not have much, but what we can see here in this moment, just appreciating nature, the fields and the meadows, and offering that moment up to God. And so I would like to play that for you now in a context, again, kind of like the Schubert example, its original context. And then I'll show you also a film and how I've adapted it to that.
It's all I have to bring today, this and my heart beside, this and my heart and all of the fields and all the meadows wide. It's all I have to bring today, this and my heart beside, and my heart and all of the fields and all the meadows wide. Be sure to count, should I forget, someone the sum could tell, someone the sum could tell. It's all I have to bring today, this and my heart beside, this and my heart and all of the fields and all the meadows wide. It's all I have to bring today, this and my heart beside, this and my heart and all of the bees in which the clover dwell.
So, I have taken this idea of this offering up to God and thought, what if, just like in the Schubert example, we put it in a context that was a bit darker? So, for the choice that I've selected of film, I actually I actually chose a TV show, and this TV show is Westworld. And Westworld is about a theme park out in the West that you can pay an exorbitant amount of money to go live in a simulated environment for a day. And you can do anything to anything and anyone. And at the end of the day, it's all reset. The way that they can achieve this is because everybody in the park is robots. And they're all repaired and reset at the end of the day. Now, my song, I've put it to Dolores. Dolores is the oldest robot in the park, and she was programmed to always see the good. However, she's now struggling with this inner turmoil as she begins to gain consciousness and awareness of her scenario. There's a couple robots in the park that are going through this, and she's trying to decide, do we save the humans? Are they worth saving? Or do they ultimately need to be destroyed? And so she's having this inner turmoil because she does see the good in them. She has this line where she says, they knew enough about beauty to teach it to us. So I want to be able to show that with you now, my process. Here's a little snapshot of what I went through in order to put this all together. I've taken my piano performance and my voice, leveled those out, and then I have also taken some sounds off the internet to mix in there of some wheat fields and different sound effects to help make it the environment still there when I can cut out the background music of there. So I've replaced the music in this scene with my own music. So I'd like to be able to show that with you now.
So many of my memories were ugly. But the things I held on to until the end weren't the ugly ones. I remember the moments where I saw what they were really capable of.
To bring today this and my heart beside.
Moments of kindness here and there.
And all the meadows wide. It's all I have to bring.
They created us.
This and my heart beside.
They knew enough of beauty to teach it to us.
This and my heart and all of the fields and all the meadows wide. Be sure to count, should I forget, someone the sum could tell.
Maybe they can find it themselves. But only if you pick a side, babe. There is ugliness in this world. Disarray.
This and my heart beside. This and my heart and all of the fields and all the meadows.
I choose to see the beauty.
And that is my scene. Thank you very much, everybody. That is the end of my presentation. I wanted to thank you all so very much for being here. Thank you, thank you. And I also want to extend a thank you also to my voice coach and also just mentor and helper and friend during this journey of these 4 years here. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. Well, feel free to stick around and come chat with me because I'd love to catch up with you all. Thank you for coming.